Hi, everyone. This is Candy Johnson. I am your host, and this is Real Talk brought to you by Real Raw Records. Today's topic is what the fuck is blind faith? Blind faith. First of all, I think in order to understand or to evaluate this phrase that is commonly used by Christians and people of a religious ideology or mindset, first of all, you would need to understand what faith is in order to dissect this phrase to see if it has any validity or if it even makes sense for that matter. From our previous broadcast, we have found that when we do break things down and really give it just a little thought, no deep thought needed, just a little common sense and a little thought. Okay, it's just a good practice to think things through, no matter what it is. But especially if this is if it's something that is a philosophy or a belief system that you're living by, which means whatever you believing in or whatever your understanding is or your lack of understanding about a particular thing will affect you in your everyday life when we're dealing with philosophies and belief systems. So I deem it necessary myself personally to think these things through before I just go headlong into things, and placing a lot of value upon things. All right. So let's do that with this word, blind faith. Now, we did some previous broadcasts and we kind of had a lot of different definitions. People were making up their own definitions as to what faith is. And because we have not completed that series of what is faith, questioning what is faith, this is somewhat a broadcast that is kind of like a ride along with that understanding, because I've heard this term over and over again, blind faith. Okay, so we all know what blind means, right? Okay, blind means you can't see, or there's no insight or oversight or foresight, all right? So if faith is what many people have described as something you don't really know for sure, then to put those two words together makes absolutely no sense. First of all, it's like an oxymoron, or when you put two words together that pretty much mean the same thing. Because if you're believing in something without any evidence, without any proof, without any experience, without anything to go along with that, that pretty much describes blindness. Okay, you don't have anything that you can place value upon. All right. So I really don't want to get into what I know faith to be to do that, because we had that other broadcast going on. But I will say this, blind faith makes absolutely no sense, because first of all, it's kind of like putting two words together that mean the same thing. Second of all, faith is a knowing. Faith is not blind at all. It's actually foresight. Okay. When I was beginning my business, I'll use this as an example. When I was beginning my business with the record label and everything, I had faith that everything that I contributed to the success of it would in turn materialize into what I was, the effort that I was putting forth for. Okay. So, and I had every reason to believe that it would transpire simply because I was putting forth the effort. There isn't anything blind about that. There isn't anything that's unforeseen that you would need a soothsayer or a psychic network to figure out for you. I was putting forth the effort. I was working hard towards it. I was doing everything that was conducive for the outcome that I was creating. Okay, so there isn't anything blind about that. Okay, and that is faith, and that is the way that faith works. Okay, faith works. If you're a Christian and you go by the biblical explanation of faith, the Bible clearly says that faith is the substance. That means it's something substantial, all right? Something you can feel, taste, touch, see, okay? You can substantiate it, all right? It's just like when you're in court, all right? And you're trying to win a case. And in order to win that case, hands down, what you would need is what they call substantial evidence, all right? So if the Bible says that faith is a substance, that means, and it said it's the substance of things hoped for. I was hoping for the success of the label, all right? I was hoping that what efforts I was putting towards the label would produce the outcome that I had intended, all right, or greater. But there isn't anything blind about that, because it wasn't like I was just doing random stuff, excuse me, and hoping that the record label just magically materialized. I had to take steps. There was a process of those things materializing, okay? And that process required substantiated movements, action. A lot of people, from what I've seen in the churches, they've been taught wrong. They've been taught that you can just hope and wish for stuff and don't do anything towards, for years, my mom used to do this. Think that God is just gonna drop stuff out of the sky, or some random person is just gonna tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I got $1 million for you. You know, that's just really unrealistic. And it's the reason why a lot of people experience disappointment when trying to operate in faith, because of the lack of understanding as to what faith is. I remember one of the preachers at the churches that I was going to, she was telling the women that was there, because the churches are mostly full of women, and she would tell them, I was raised under, where I came up under a very good church that was with very practical teaching. So I was blessed. But she taught the women, she said, if you want a good husband, she said, then before God blesses you with a husband, you need to start preparing yourself for a good husband. You need to keep your weight under control, or keep yourself up and keep yourself presentable. Don't be sliding around with your heels all crusty and stuff, As she say, if you can't cook, you need to take you some cooking lessons and learn how to cook, or figure out a way to take care of the man when you get him, in preparation for what you're believing for, all right? Because there is an element and a principle that governs our whole universe. And that element, that principle is called sowing and reaping, Okay, sowing and reaping is very simply put, whatever you put into something, that's what you'll get out. And part of that principle is that whatever you yield will be more than what you put into it. Okay, those are just the rules. I didn't make them up, I just go by them. and believe it or not, whether you believe in them or not, we all go by those rules. When you plant food into the ground or seeds into the ground and you want a crop of food, you can't just buy a piece of land and not prepare that land for the seed, okay? And that seed being faith, okay? You having faith, you use the seed because you have faith that seed, or you believe and know. See, because faith is a knowing. It's not a hoping and a wishing. You have faith. You know that when you plant a seed in the ground, from experience, that when you plant seeds in a good fertile ground and you cultivate that ground, and you know, continuously maintain it or whatever, that it will yield the plant of the seed that you planted. All right. So when she was telling the young ladies to start preparing themselves for a husband, that their actions, if they were to follow up on the advice that was given, their actions would show and prove that they actually believed and were in full expectation of the seed that they're planting to bring forth its fruit. I'm hoping that I'm explaining this to you plain and simple enough where you can understand it. But in essence, the bottom line to it is there is nothing blind about faith. Okay? Faith is seeing, knowing without a doubt. And that is what breeds. That's the breeding ground for materialization of whatever it is that you want to manifest. Okay? Manifestation means come alive or produce or to make something realized, all right, or a reality. Okay, so and this is how people get healed and things of that nature, things people call miracles. We discussed that. There's no such thing as a miracle. These are the principles of sowing and reaping at work. If you have cancer, you know, even the scientists and the doctors have found out that people that let go of all their worries and let go of all their grudges and hateful anger and bitterness, that they seem to get better faster and they seem to recover from the illness. Okay. Of course, coupled along with better eating habits and, you know, just a rounded approach to dealing with that illness. Okay, it didn't magically or miraculously happen and where they obtained their healing or a better living state. They intentionally and purposefully made a decision to make the necessary changes that would create an environment. Remember, we was talking about cultivating the land. That's creating an environment that's conducive for the outcome that you are expecting. All right. So there's nothing blind at all about faith. What's actually blind about faith is people's understanding of what faith really is. So I felt it necessary to get some clarity on this particular topic. And I would have loved for some of the Christians to participate in this broadcast because from what I've seen, a lot of the, I shouldn't just say Christians, but a lot of the religious believers are so unlearned about what faith really is, to the point where they are passing along the misconceptions and the misunderstandings that they have to others. And sometimes I wonder, I heard G-Man talking one time trying to explain faith. I said, "Po thing," and you could just see how hard he was struggling to explain it. Because if you really listen to yourself and you're trying to explain faith as being something you don't know, you just hope and wish, or you know, it just don't make sense. It just sounds like the mind of a lunatic, or the mind of a person that don't know any better, or doesn't are very unintelligent. Now, the people who believe that faith is blind, I don't think they are unintelligent people at all. Keep in mind, the word ignorance doesn't mean that you don't know nothing. It just means that you don't have enough knowledge, or that you don't have sufficient knowledge or understanding concerning a particular matter or subject. So I believe that a lot of people who have been either just taught wrong, or haven't studied for themselves, or they studied wrong with some previous misunderstanding of the word, and they got the same wrong outcome of the understanding of faith. But however, I don't think it has anything to do with their intelligence or lack thereof. I just believe that they, like I said, have either been taught a misconception or a misunderstanding, or either they themselves have not studied to actually know, all right, of what faith means. So I would like to encourage you all to look it up yourself. If any of my viewers have anything to contribute to this topic, I would love to hear it. And if you have something that differs from what I've already expressed, please let me know via the comment section of the video or the event page. I don't mind opposing views. I am very confident in my explanation, but I just like to hear different views and different angles and aspects of things, because a lot of understandings have more than one facet to it. So I'm just open to hear what other people have to say in you know, concerning different matters. But as always, I ask y'all to keep it real, or take your ass back to fantasy land. There is absolutely nothing blind about faith. Faith is knowing without a doubt.